The same crowd that shouts "follow your heart" suddenly becomes the judge. Society loves rules, unwritten rules, invisible rules, rules that decide what is normal and what is strange. Love is supposed to be free, but somehow it comes with conditions. Same age group acceptable, few years difference tolerable, big age gap, suddenly it becomes a public issue. People stop seeing love, they start seeing numbers. A man older than a woman and people assume control, power, manipulation. A woman older than a man and people assume desperation, insecurity, or a midlife crisis. Very few stop and ask the most important question: are they actually happy? Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But society does the opposite. It speaks loudly about things it does not understand. Age gap relationships are not new. They existed long before social media, before gossip culture, before moral superiority became a hobby. The difference is simple. Today, everyone thinks their opinion matters. Society does not react to age gap love because of concern. It reacts because age gap love challenges its comfort zone. When two people from different ages connect deeply, it breaks a silent illusion, the illusion that life must move in fixed stages. Study at this age, marry at this age, love only people who match your timeline. Marcus Aurelius believed life is change, nothing stays fixed, yet society hates when love refuses to stay inside its boxes. People often say she is too young to understand, he is too old to change. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Age does not guarantee wisdom, and youth does not guarantee ignorance. Some people live 60 years and never understand themselves. Some understand life deeply at 25. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one, but society wastes endless time arguing what good love should look like." Instead of observing character, values, and mutual respect, people count candles on a cake. Why? Because judging love is easier than understanding it. Society claims it protects people, but protection often hides fear. Fear of difference, fear of being judged themselves, fear of asking hard questions about their own unhappy relationships. Age gap relationships expose a painful reality. Many people stay in acceptable relationships that feel empty just to avoid judgment. When someone chooses love over approval, it angers those who chose approval over love. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that opinions are not facts. He wrote about ignoring external noise and focusing on inner truth. Yet today, external noise defines relationships. A couple walks into a room, before they even speak, assumptions are made, stories are invented, motives are questioned. Nobody asks how they treat each other, nobody asks if they grow together, nobody asks if they are kind. Only one question matters to society. How old are you both? Age becomes a shortcut for judgment, but shortcuts lead to shallow thinking. Love with an age gap forces society to confront something it avoids, that emotional connection does not follow calendars. People mature at different speeds, life hits everyone differently. Trauma can age you, comfort can delay growth, responsibility can sharpen the mind early, shelter can keep it soft for years. Marcus Aurelius believed that the soul, not the body, defines a person, yet society measures love using the body's timeline. This is where hypocrisy appears. Society praises old souls in young people until those old souls choose partners who match their depth instead of their age. Then suddenly that wisdom is dismissed. People say you will regret it later, but regret exists in every kind of relationship. Same-age marriages fail. Perfectly planned unions collapse. Approval never guarantees happiness. Marcus Aurelius accepted impermanence. He understood that life is uncertain, yet society pretends certainty exists as long as rules are followed. Age gap love is not dangerous because of numbers. It becomes dangerous only when respect is missing, just like any other relationship. Control is not age-based. Manipulation is not age-exclusive. Emotional abuse happens across all ages. But society needs a villain, and age difference is an easy target. When love doesn't match expectations, people stop asking, "Is this healthy?" and jump straight to "This is wrong." Marcus Aurelius warned against living for applause. He knew the crowd is unstable. What it praises today, it mocks tomorrow. Yet couples are expected to shape their lives around public comfort. Age gap relationships highlight a brutal truth. Society cares more about appearance than reality. A toxic relationship with matching ages gets applause. A peaceful relationship with an age gap gets suspicion. Why? Because peace does not entertain. Judgment does. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to remain calm amid criticism. He wrote about standing firm when misunderstood. People in age gap love must learn the same skill because misunderstanding is guaranteed. Not everyone who questions is evil. Some are genuinely confused, but many are projecting their fears, fear of aging, fear of loneliness, fear of making the wrong choice. Seeing someone happy outside the rules feels like an accusation. Age gap love silently asks society a question it hates: what if you didn't have to live the way you did? And that question is threatening. That is why society attacks the relationship, not the feeling. Marcus Aurelius believed that people act badly out of ignorance, not evil. Understanding this brings peace. The truth is simple. Society is not against age gap relationships. It is against freedom it cannot control. Society's biggest weapon against age gap relationships is one word: power. The moment people see an age difference, they assume power imbalance. Older means powerful, younger means weak. But power does not come from age. It comes from awareness, money, emotional intelligence, social position, and self-respect. A younger person can emotionally dominate an older one. An older person can be deeply insecure and dependent. Age is not the source of control. Personality is. Marcus Aurelius warned about false impressions. He believed most suffering comes from wrong judgments, not reality. Society looks at age gap love and creates a story without evidence. This story feels true because it is repeated so often. Repetition replaces thinking. People say the younger one is being manipulated, but they never ask if the younger one is choosing freely. Choice disappears from the conversation because it breaks the narrative. Society prefers victims over complexity. It feels heroic to save someone who never asked to be saved. Protection becomes an excuse to interfere. Marcus Aurelius wrote about respecting others' rational minds, yet society assumes one adult suddenly loses rational thinking because of age difference. If both are adults, consent exists, but society selectively forgets this. The same people who defend freedom in words become dictators in practice. They say love should be free, but only inside approved limits. Power myths also hide jealousy. Not sexual jealousy, existential jealousy. People see an older partner still desired and they fear aging. They see a younger partner choosing depth over social approval and they fear independence. Age gap love reminds people that life does not end at a certain number, and that scares them. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on death to remove fear. Society avoids reflection and attacks reminders. Manipulation accusations grow louder online because outrage performs well. Calm discussion does not go viral. A peaceful age gap couple does not entertain, controversy does. So society exaggerates rare, toxic cases and presents them as universal truth. One bad story becomes proof against millions of healthy connections. This is intellectually lazy, but emotionally satisfying. Marcus Aurelius would call this surrendering reason to emotion. Another accusation is intention. People assume older partners want control and younger partners want money or security. This reduces human connection to transactions. Ironically, many same-age relationships are purely transactional but remain unquestioned. When ages match, motives are invisible. When ages differ, motives are invented. Society does not investigate love, it interrogates difference. There is also a gender hypocrisy. Older men with younger women are accused of predatory behavior, sometimes rightly when abuse exists, but often blindly. Older women with younger men are mocked, sexualized, or dismissed as jokes. Both reactions come from the same place: discomfort. Marcus Aurelius believed people ridicule what they do not understand. Society does not understand relationships that refuse to follow scripts. Scripts feel safe. Scripts reduce anxiety. Age gap love has no script. It must be written daily through communication and trust. That requires effort, something society avoids. People ask why age gap couples don't just choose easier paths, but ease is not the goal of a meaningful life. Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by comfort, yet chose discipline. Love is similar. Meaningful connection is rarely convenient. Another hidden fear is responsibility. If age does not define readiness for love, then people must take responsibility for their choices. They can no longer blame timing or age. That level of accountability is uncomfortable, so society invents rules to avoid it. Protection turns into control when it ignores individual reality. True protection listens. Society does not listen, it labels. Labels are efficient. Predator, victim, gold digger, immature. Once labeled, no further thought is required. Marcus Aurelius warned against seeing people as categories instead of individuals. Age gap love exposes how often society does exactly that. People ask what will happen in 10 or 20 years, as if uncertainty exists only there. Every relationship faces aging, illness, change, loss. Same-age couples grow apart. Different-age couples adapt differently. No one owns the future. Marcus Aurelius accepted uncertainty as part of nature. Society pretends to predict outcomes to feel in control, but control is an illusion. Age gap love does not need defense, it needs honesty. When respect, consent, and growth exist, age becomes context, not danger. Society confuses discomfort with immorality. Feeling uneasy does not mean something is wrong, it often means something challenges old beliefs. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to sit with discomfort instead of reacting. Society reacts instantly. That is why it shouts instead of thinks. Society's deepest problem with age gap relationships is not morality, it is approval addiction. People are trained from childhood to seek validation. Good grades bring praise. Following traditions brings acceptance. Breaking patterns brings punishment. Love is supposed to be personal, but society treats it like a public performance. Age gap love refuses to perform. It does not ask permission. That is why it feels threatening. Marcus Aurelius warned against living for reputation. He reminded himself that the opinions of others are outside our control. Yet most people build their entire identity around those opinions. When someone chooses love that risks judgment, it exposes how fragile that approval-based life really is. Society responds with anger because anger hides insecurity. People say they are only being realistic, but realism often means fear dressed as wisdom. Marcus Aurelius believed clarity comes from separating what we control from what we do not. We do not control others' choices. We only control our response. Society hates this truth because it removes authority. Age gap relationships remove society's imagined power over personal life. Another reason society reacts harshly is narrative collapse. There is a story everyone is taught. Grow up, find someone your age, settle down, grow old together at the same pace. Age gap love disrupts this neat storyline. When stories collapse, people panic. They cling harder to rules. They moralize what is simply unfamiliar. Marcus Aurelius observed that humans prefer comforting lies over uncomfortable truths. The truth is that love is unpredictable. It does not obey schedules. It does not care about optics. Society pretends to value authenticity, but only when it looks familiar. When authenticity looks different, it becomes a problem. Age gap couples are often told to prove themselves constantly. They must show maturity, stability, long-term plans. Same-age couples are rarely interrogated this way. This double standard reveals the real issue. Society does not want understanding. It wants reassurance that its rules still matter. Marcus Aurelius taught that inner peace comes from aligning actions with personal values, not public applause. Age gap love forces that alignment. Either people choose their truth or choose comfort. Many choose comfort and resent those who do not. This resentment turns into criticism. Criticism turns into moral superiority. Moral superiority feels good because it avoids self-examination. People say they worry about consequences, but concern without listening is not care, it is control. True care respects autonomy. Society struggles with autonomy because it threatens conformity. If one rule breaks, others might too. That possibility scares people who built their lives on rules instead of reflection. Marcus Aurelius encouraged constant self-examination. Society encourages constant comparison. Comparison breeds judgment. Judgment breeds noise. Noise drowns truth. Age gap love becomes a target because it is visible and easy to question. Quiet conformity is invisible and safe. Another uncomfortable truth is that many critics are unhappy, not because of age gap love, but because they compromised. Seeing someone refuse compromise reopens old wounds. It reminds them of choices they did not make. Instead of facing that pain, they attack the reminder. Marcus Aurelius understood this projection. He wrote that people hurt others when they are confused about themselves. Understanding this does not excuse cruelty, but it explains it. Freedom from society's judgment begins internally. Stoicism does not ask for approval. It asks for integrity. Age gap couples who survive are not those who argue with everyone, but those who stop needing permission. Silence becomes strength. Consistency becomes proof. Time becomes clarity. Society eventually moves on because it always needs a new target. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He watched praise and blame rise and fall. He remained steady. That steadiness is the lesson. Love does not need justification when it is honest. Age gap relationships are not statements, protests, or rebellions. They are simply connections between two people. Society turns them into symbols because society is obsessed with symbols. But life is lived in details, not symbols. Respect, kindness, growth, and consent matter more than numbers. Always have, always will. When society judges, it reveals itself. When love persists quietly, it reveals truth. Marcus Aurelius would not ask for society's approval. He would ask one question only. Are you living according to your nature and values? If the answer is yes, the noise becomes irrelevant. That is the final truth society avoids. There are many people watching this video who feel judged, confused, or silent. If you are one of them, know this. You are not alone. Liking this video helps this message reach people who need it the most. Sharing it can change someone's perspective, maybe even their life. And subscribing means you become part of a community that values depth over drama and truth over trends. Let's grow this space together.